Right, but you don't want to flip out either.
Very true.
I think he would probably rather you say, can you pause the movie and help me for 10 minutes rather than you walking around slamming cabinets for 35 minutes.
Definitely.
You're listening to the Nacho Kids Podcast, where we discuss all things step-family related. Real stories, real people, real help. Your hosts are the creators of the Nacho Kids Method and the Nacho Kids Academy Step Family Coaching Team, Lori and David Sims.
Hey, David.
Hello, darling.
You didn't say anything about me saying your name first.
I know. I get tired of arguing about it. I give in. It's not the hill I'm going to die on.
It's comfortable for me to start off that way.
Yeah, but you call me David all the time. The other day, you was like, I can't remember if you said darling or honey or something. I was like, oh my gosh, you didn't call me David.
Yeah. That's because you don't really have a nickname.
Or at least nothing you can call me.
Yeah. And I guess I lack with terms of endearment.
So I thought about you last week. I was down in Augusta, Georgia.
You better have thought about me.
And I was walking down the sidewalk.
Oh, Lord. This can't be good, y'all.
And this woman looked at me. That's not true. But I was walking down the sidewalk. And I noticed the restaurant I was standing in front of was called Nacho Mama. And so I took a picture of it and sent it to you.
Mm-hmm. There's actually quite a few restaurants that are called Nacho Mama or Nacho Mamas.
Yeah, I know, which is interesting because I guess it's not a chain because they're all kind of doing something different. But I guess you can do that as long as you're not in the same area.
Right.
But this wasn't like I've seen some that are Nacho Mama and it's like a Mexican restaurant. This was not.
It's like
Mexican.
A bar.
Yeah, it's more of a bar with normal like burgers and stuff like that. But yeah, thought about you. If I had a card, I would have went in there and like, here, you should be promoting the Nacho Kids Academy.
Yes, you should.
Because a bunch of people coming there drinking and complaining about their step family.
Oh, David.
We can have a step family only bar. I think it's a great idea. You have to be a step family.
Have you heard the song, There's a Tear in My Beer?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Like you've got to be a stepmom or stepdad to enter this bar.
And how would you prove it? From the look of disgust on your face?
All you got to do is go, did you know what you're getting into? And they look at you all crazy. You know that they know.
Yeah, that's the secret phrase to get in.
Yeah. Yep. So you come to me and you say, I'm a stepmom. I'm like, so you knew what you were getting into? If they go, yeah. I'm like, you're not a stepmom. Get out of here.
And once you enter the doors, you cannot talk about step family issues.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
I'm liking this idea. Well, since we're still under COVID lockdowns, maybe we can do this via Zoom. Everybody, BYOB, we're having a Zoom nacho. What would we call it?
What would be BYOB?
Bring your own booze.
Oh.
I think it'd be very therapeutic.
No. Well, Claudette Chenevert is doing the Step Family Summit again this year.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Part of the VIP program, if you sign up for the VIP membership, you get to join us for an after summit VIP get together celebration via Zoom.
Okay, cool. You gonna be there?
Yeah.
Am I gonna be there?
Yeah.
I never know what you volunteer me for.
I'll be there with my cherry Coke.
With your cherry Coke.
And my water.
In a wine glass.
Yeah. We'll have to go buy some wine glasses. Or we'll just put them in beer mugs. We do have a couple of beer mugs.
Do we?
Yeah, I've got one from Germany.
Or we could just do straight up South Carolina and do them in mason jars.
You talking about some moonshine there.
Exactly.
Or we could just go get some Mad Dog 2020 and drink straight out the bottle.
That's just, ooh, you should see my face. That brings back some old, terrible memories.
The same face I get when someone mentions tequila.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, on that note.
Uh-oh.
So, I'm not a connoisseur of alcohol. However, the person I was with is in Augusta. And so she says, we go into this restaurant and they have, I can't remember what the name of the restaurant is. Whiskey something was the name of the restaurant. And of course, there's a whole wall full of these different whiskeys. And she's like, do you want to try one of these different whiskey things? I'm like, I don't like brown alcohol. I had a bad experience in college. She's like, well, what were you drinking? And I was like, I think it was called Southern Comfort. And she goes, oh my gosh, that stuff is horrible. It's like black tar. And I said, I don't know. All I know was I was young and dumb, and whatever somebody said, here, do you want some of this? And you said, yeah. But anyway, she's like, well, you need to try some quality whiskey. And I'm like, okay. And so she's describing all these bottles on the wall and what they are and where they come from and how they're made and barreled. And there's all these other terms I don't even know about. Like this one, they would put it on a boat. Like they put them on a ship and they have to go out to sea with it on the ship for at least a year. Then they come back and they take it out of the barrel, whatever it's called.
Does it have something to do with the way it floats?
No, it's just, I don't know. I'm going to mix all the names up here, but
I'll call her and ask her.
It's cured at sea or whatever they call it. It's not cured, but whatever they call it.
Fermented.
Yeah, fermented at sea. I don't know whatever it is. But all these things, and this one that I'm looking at, and I'm like, some of these bottles are really nice. Like I could imagine just the glass bottle was probably $20 or $30 easy, just for the bottle. And I look at one of them, it's in a really fancy bottle, but that bottle is in a wooden case. And I'm like, I hate to even know what this is, but I asked. The bottle was $2,000. It was $200 a glass.
No.
Yeah. And she goes, do you want to try that? I'm like, no, I don't want to try that. I don't even want to smell it.
You remember the last time that you and I went somewhere with her and I ended up buying this pretty bottle of wine? I just liked the bottle and I let her drink it and I took the bottle home.
Yeah. Yep. They had some really cool ones, but.
Did you try any?
No, I didn't try any. She tried to get me to try one she had, but I smelled it and I was like,
nah.
I can't. So anyway, no, I did not. But it's funny because she tastes it and she starts telling me how
She tastes it.
She tastes it. And she tells me like it's got notes of nutmeg and citrus. And I'm thinking, no, it's alcohol.
See, that's how I would taste. It's pure alcohol.
No. But anyway, yeah, we have very simple palates when it comes to that stuff. But it's funny because it's it's a complete education around all this crazy stuff they do.
But she belongs to some kind of bourbon or whiskey club or something.
Right.
Too.
She belongs to a bourbon club. So, they get together and discuss like a book club.
She's a professional drinker.
She actually is.
Like, really? I'm not kidding.
It's funny because you go anywhere with her and she's like, what kind of, whatever drink it is, if it's beer or if it's wine or whatever, she's like, what kind do you like? And if you're like me, you're like, I don't know. But she gets into all the how-tos, how it's done and how it's mixed and where it's brewed. And it's fascinating. I think it is. I think it's very fascinating, but it's just not something that I'm that interested in.
So our guest today has been blending for 8 years, married 5 of those years, has a stepdaughter 13 every other weekend, a bio daughter 10. She has her bio daughter a few days during the week and every other weekend. And she has an hours daughter 1 and an hours daughter 7. 4 girls, ages 13, 10, 7, and 1.
Lord help me.
And she was a stepkid herself.
So she knew what she was getting into?
No, she did not. Only the psychic people know what they're getting into.
Okay.
And they don't even know sometimes.
They do not.
That's like that one psychic lady that her house, she had it up for sale for like years. And I'm like, does she not know she's not going to sell that house?
She should know that.
She should know she's not going to sell that house.
Maybe you can't do your own psychic reading. You have to go to somebody else.
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe there's rules. Who knows? She said her stepmom did not hand out punishments. And she went to her dad's and stepmom's every other weekend. Freshman year, she lived with her dad during the summer and then moved back when school started. She and the bio mom do not have the best relationship because the bio mom was bothered when the stepmom and the bio daughter became close.
I wonder if men have that same bother about kids getting close. Like, I don't think I cared.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, apparently I did.
You don't know yourself very well. If you think it wouldn't bother you if your kids would have gotten really close with their stepdad, especially if they called him dad.
There's definitely a line. When I say get close to them, I'm not talking about feeling like I've been replaced type closeness.
Okay, let me lay this out for you. One of your kids comes to you and says, I went to go buy my first car and old man Johnny went with me because he knows so much about cars and how to deal with the car dealership people.
Yeah, that's what I was about to bring up is if it's kind of like first time things, Yeah, I'd probably be bothered. Or if it's like I told old man Johnny about my engagement or my marriage or my new kid, told him first and then I found out second. Yeah, I'd be pissed off. But honestly, I'd be pissed off if you found out first.
That's why I don't tell you when I know things.
Because, as the parent, you want to know things first. Heck, I want to know things before the bio mom does. I would rather my kids have a good relationship with their stepdad than not. Now, does that mean that they may get really close to him and I might not be the person they go to for certain things? That could possibly happen. But I would still rather for that to happen than to have a stepdad that is toxic and they hate and all that kind of stuff. So just my viewpoint on it. But I don't think I really have to deal with it either way. I think my kids view their, I'm assuming, stepdad just as the person that married their mom.
And divorced their mom.
And remarried.
And re-divorced.
And we re-divorced. Yeah. And I don't know what they are now. But
secret love.
They in that yo-yo relationship.
Mm-hmm. Not YOLO. Yo-yo. So anyway, let's get to listening, David.
I know. I've been trying to. Keep talking. All right. Here's a word about the Academy.
There is a way to save your sanity and your relationship, and it's called the Nacho Kids Academy. In the Nacho Kids Academy, you will learn the skills and knowledge to properly nacho, techniques to handle step-family challenges, ways to improve your communication, and much, much more. Visit NachoKidsAcademy.com and sign up today to join other step-parents who are seeing the life-changing benefits of nachoing. Again, that's NachoKidsAcademy.com.
Today we have stepmom Holly. Hey, Holly, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Doing well. Tell us about your blend. How long have you been blending?
So we have been blending for 8 years now. I have a stepdaughter who's 13. I have a daughter from my first marriage who is 10. And then my husband and I have a 1-year-old and a 7-year-old together. All girls. 4 girls.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
How does your husband feel about that?
I think when we found out this last one was a girl, he was a little shocked, and he definitely needs like a male dog or something. But he's very happy. He's a great girl dad, so he's accepting of it.
David has 4 sons, and there's a reason that God did not give him girls.
I think it takes a special man.
I cannot imagine David having girls.
Yeah, it's intense.
So how often do you have stepdaughter?
So when we first got together, we had my stepdaughter pretty much every other weekend, and then we'd have her 2 days during the week. And then on the other week, we'd have her, obviously Friday, Saturday, Sunday as well. And then as she now is in middle school, it's a little tougher because they will only bus from one house. So now she stays with her mom during the week and she's here every other weekend.
How far away do you live from the bio mom?
About 15 minutes.
Oh, and they'll only take them to one house.
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, they either will take them to a daycare or they will take them to one resident. They won't go back and forth. Like she couldn't take the bus from here and then take the bus from there. She would only be able to take it from one place. So she takes it from her mom's house. And because of mine and my husband's work schedule, there's no way to get her to her mom's house to get her on the bus. So she unfortunately, doesn't come during the week now, which was kind of a weird adjustment. But
oh, I'm sure it was, especially for your husband.
Yes, very much so. I was pregnant when this whole change happened, and it's been chaos.
Wow. How did your husband handle the change of him getting less time with her?
It's hard for him. He definitely misses her, and there's so much things that we do during the week, and you can tell because she's part of our family, and a piece of our family is missing. You know what I mean? So he really does struggle with it. But I think at the same time, it gives her more one-on-one because she's an only child at her mom's house. And I think in terms of like her schoolwork and stuff, it's a little bit easier on her. So I think he does know that. It's hard. We went from having her half the time to having her every other weekend. And there's so much going on in our house all the time that I think we feel like she's kind of missing out.
Right. Does the bio mom let him get her during the week if he wants to for a couple hours or?
Yes. Usually if we have like a birthday or something, we'll pick her up for dinner and we'll go out to dinner and we'll just bring her home later. And my mom actually lives like a street over from her.
Mhm.
So a lot of times, like if we go to my mom's, we'll swing by, grab her. So she's still included in a lot of the stuff that we do. She's fairly good about letting us have extra time, especially because we do technically have joint custody. So she's pretty flexible with letting us get her during the week if, we have something going on or she wants to come over or something like that.
Right. And how long ago did you say that it changed to where you were only getting her every other weekend?
So now it's going on 2 years now.
Oh, so it's been a while.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how did your daughter and her get along, or have you noticed a change in how your daughter and her get along since she's there less?
Well, they definitely, I would say that my daughter from my first marriage and then our 7-year-old, they definitely miss her a lot. They miss playing with her. My daughter and her actually share a room. So I think it's a little weird too, because she went from sharing a room with somebody to now she basically almost has her own room because her sister's not here. And I think she's probably the one that struggles with it the most because they were the closest in age. And I think it's really hard. I mean, she misses her sister. And then unfortunately, the baby, it's hard because she doesn't ever see her. She sees her every other weekend. So for the baby, it's really weird. And during this whole pandemic that we've had, my husband and I tested positive for COVID. So she wasn't here for like 2 months because obviously we didn't want them to get it. So she actually didn't see the baby at all during that time. And then she only comes every other weekend. So I feel like she doesn't get a chance to have like a relationship with the baby that the other girls get to have.
Right. And I forgot to ask you how often your daughter goes to her dad's.
So I have full physical custody of my daughter, but we're pretty flexible with my ex-husband, and he gets her usually, I would say 2 nights a week and then every other weekend.
Okay.
Sometimes less, sometimes more. We're pretty flexible. We don't really stick to a strict, arrangement.
But you try to keep it where the weekends that your stepdaughter comes, that your bio daughter's there.
Exactly. Yeah. So they get to see each other.
That's good.
Yes.
Because they may not always get along. You know that.
Oh, yes. They, for the most part, those two, the older two do. I would say my biological daughter and then our 7, I don't know how to phrase it to who I'm talking about, but so my daughter from my first marriage and then our 7-year-old, those two are constantly at it. But so far, my stepdaughter and my daughter get along very, very well.
Isn't it funny how your bio kids fight more than the stepkid and the bio kid?
It is. It really is. I have to say my stepdaughter is very easygoing when it comes to the other kids because, she's the oldest. So they kind of want to be around her and do what she's doing and talk about who she's talking about. And she's really good with letting them like tag along basically. Whereas the other two, if one has a friend over, the other one's like, oh, you can't hang out with us. Or it's funny. It really is. There's quite an interesting dynamic between all of them.
So when your husband gets her every other weekend, do you feel like he doesn't spend as much time with your hours kids, or he tries to incorporate everybody?
He's really good about incorporating everybody. And I would have thought that when she first stopped coming during the week, I would have thought that he probably would have wanted to focus on just her during the weekends, but he's actually really good about it. He'll find ways to make them all involved in whatever it is that he's doing.
But does he still try to spend some alone time with her?
Yeah. She stays up a little bit later and he tries to they'll watch a movie or something, and he tries to give her a little bit of individual attention, definitely.
Well, let me ask you this. When he decides to stay up later with her and watch a movie or something like that, say it's something that you don't really care to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel left out?
Sometimes. And I think sometimes it's because sometimes I'm with the baby or something and I get that he's spending time with her, but sometimes it's hard because I'm trying to deal with all the other 3 while he's dealing with her. So it almost to me feels like I'm trying to do all the work while he's spending time with her. I try not to look at it like that, but sometimes, yeah, I mean, I do feel like that.
Well, and the reason I ask you that is because we see that a lot where even though the stepdaughter is only coming 4 days a month or 4 nights and 6 days, whatever it is,
right?
Then it's easy for the stepmom to feel like she's pushed to the side at those times.
Yeah, I think I get a lot more of the work, I guess. Part of it to me is I feel that, and not that I know that, I feel like he doesn't want to spend time with me, but I feel like it's almost like a vacation weekend for him and his daughter kind of because they don't see each other. And so it's not like I'm going to sit there and tell her, hey, come do these chores, because she's not here that much. So I know she wants the most of the time with her dad. And I know my husband wants to be able to do that. And so all of the rest kind of lands on me. And that part's a little tricky to navigate. When she was here more, I think that honestly, I was more the one that was entertaining her. And I was the one that was kind of doing everything with her. Mm-hmm. So now I think that now that he doesn't see her so much, he's actually a lot better about being the one that does spend time with her and that kind of thing. So I guess in some ways it does take that part of the load off me. So that's kind of a relief too.
Right. And you don't want him to be a crappy dad and not spend time with her. If you start feeling stressed out, I'm sure if you said, hey, I need help, your husband sounds like the kind of person that'll come help you.
Yeah. Definitely. I feel guilty sometimes because I don't want to take that time away from him too.
Right. But you don't want to flip out either.
No, very true.
I think he would probably rather you say, can you pause the movie and help me for 10 minutes rather than you walk around slamming cabinets for 35 minutes.
Definitely.
So don't be afraid to ask for help. And remember that it's a good thing that he's spending time with her. And she's 13. Before you know it, she's not going to want to spend time with dad.
Right. Exactly. That's true.
And he's not going to like that very much when she's saying, Dad, I want to go out with my boyfriend.
Yeah, he's definitely not going to be very good about that.
He's going to say, plan that crap on your mama's time.
Right.
Not on my time, girl.
Yeah. I mean, that's the hard part too, because she is 13. And, a lot of times, like, she'll be like, oh, well, I want to sleep at my friend's house. And he's like, well, you only come here, every other week. Like, when we want you here when you're here.
Right.
Yeah, but like you said, but she's 13, so all those things are changing.
Well, what about her friends spending the night there?
We haven't really had that, to be honest with you. I feel like part of that too is she does enjoy the time still with him. So she does tend to do like her sleepovers and stuff like that on the weekends that she is with her mom. Mm-hmm. And not because we've, told her no or anything. She just seems to prefer it that way. So.
Right.
To be honest with you, I mean, I went when my parents were divorced when I was younger, and I had such a hard time because we only saw my dad every other weekend. But then as I got older and things started going on the weekends, there were weekends I didn't go at all. But to be honest, like, I think it was easier for me just to do the every other weekend because, like, for my example, my stepdaughter before, like, she would come over Tuesday, Thursday, and then every other Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's like, I can't imagine trying to do that either.
Right. That's like a lot of people you'll see will have like a 2-2-5-5 schedule rather than week on, week off. Mm-hmm. And some kids seem to do better with that schedule than week on, week off. Uh-huh. But to me, it seems like that the kid would have less of a chance to feel like they're home.
Right. Because they feel like they're constantly just moving back and forth.
Right. And if the parents live, more than 5 minutes away from each other, then it's, oh, I have to pack up my life and take it over there.
Right.
Yeah. I know David's kids, when they would leave something here and he would have to meet their mom to drop something off. At first, I was like, oh my gosh, you're catering to them. They should be more responsible. Mm-hmm. It's just ridiculous that they can't wait for a week to have their PlayStation or whatever it was.
Right.
But that was when I was so wrapped up in my feelings of the blend. And it was hard for me to see outside of my hurt to see the struggles that the stepkids went through.
Yeah.
How old were you when your parents split up?
I was 4.
Oh, you were young.
Yeah, very young.
And did your parents remarry?
Yes, both of them did. My stepfather recently passed away in 2016. But my dad is still married.
What was your relationship like with your stepdad and your stepmom?
When I was a teenager, it was really rough with my stepdad because he was very old school. They got married when I was 16, but they had been together for a long time before that. But my mom had always kind of raised us, like, it was like the 5 of us because I have 3 siblings. And like, that was it, and that was all that mattered. And we all kind of like called the shots. Like, it wasn't like my mom, it was kind of like a democracy, I guess. And then when my stepdad came, he just was very old school and didn't think like the kids should have, a big say in everything, like where we went on vacation or whatever, where we going out to dinner. He was like more like, this is what we're doing. This is how it's going to be. So that was really a struggle when I was a teenager, and we butt heads a lot over time. But then once I went to college, we got very close. And then my stepmom, She was in the picture from since I was really young. So I had a decent relationship with her. She did a lot for us, does a lot for us, I should say. And we definitely struggled, especially when I was a teenager. I was a little angry, but she does a lot for us. And I think as I've gotten older, I've appreciated her more because especially now being a stepmom, I see how difficult it is. And I have a lot more, I guess, compassion for what I put her through. Mm-hmm. So I think as I've gotten older, it definitely has gotten a lot better.
So did she parent you?
Not very much. We all kind of knew that the guidelines were her. My dad was not, he did leave a lot, I feel like, to her. But when it came down to any sort of discipline or anything like that, it was my dad that was the one that was saying, even though, my stepmom may have said this is the, she's going to be grounded. My dad would be the one that would tell me, you're grounded. We kind of knew where it was coming from. I don't think she ever directly disciplined us at all.
Smart lady.
Yeah, she is.
Very smart lady. So did y'all ever tell your dad, oh, well, we know where that's coming from. She's telling you to do that.
Uh-huh. Very often.
And what was his response?
That it was coming from both of them, that they were partners and it was coming from both of them. I have 2 half brothers as well. They would set rules for them, obviously. And when we would come there, then we needed to follow them too. So I think that they were trying to keep it as fair as possible across the board. But
yeah,
I definitely, we would know that it was more my stepmom because my dad was, I don't want to say he wasn't as involved in everything, but he just, I would say in terms of the discipline and stuff, that was him. But in terms of the day-to-day of our life, it was more my stepmom.
She did the motherly stuff.
Yes, exactly.
So she helped with homework and cooked and cleaned and all that happy stuff.
Oh, yep. She did. And she did a lot of the carpooling and stuff like that.
So she went from having 2 kids of her own, right?
Well, yeah. Well, my half brothers are younger. Yeah. But
okay.
When she met my dad, my youngest brother was 6 months old and there was 4 of us. So when she married my dad, she became stepmom to 4 young kids.
Wow.
And she had none of her own. And then I think my brother was 2 when my half brother was born, my youngest brother.
So she went from no kids to every other weekend, 4 kids. Mm-hmm. To she had 2 of her own eventually.
Yeah.
So then it's 2 kids, then every other weekend there's 6.
Yes.
Holy moly.
Yeah. And we were an intense crowd. I have 4 brothers in total, and then I have an older sister. So
wow.
Yeah. A wild crew.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get all this in my head. I'm like, wait a minute. So you've got your 2 half brothers.
Uh-huh.
And then you've got 2 biological brothers.
Yes.
And then 1 biological sister.
Yes.
Okay. So did your mom have any other kids?
No. Mm-mm.
She was done.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Because she really had the 4 of us. We were only with my dad every other weekend. So she had the 4 of us all the time. And I don't know how between all of our schedules, we all played sports and stuff. And I don't know how she did it and she worked full time. So it was crazy. So I think she was done.
Do you think that back then when they split up, it was just normal for the dads to get every other weekend versus 50-50?
Yeah, I definitely, because I had friends, whose parents were split up, and I would say they all had the same schedule as me, basically.
Yeah, I really didn't see the 50-50 come about till, I want to say probably 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Up until then, it was more of every other weekend, a couple weeks during the summer, a week at Christmas kind of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would agree.
So did you go spend time with your dad during the summer?
Yeah, he would take us to Cape Cod. He has a house up there, and we would go for a week there. And then he would take us a week. We usually went to Disney for a week in February.
Holy moly.
Yeah. So we'd have 2 weeks vacation with him. And then when I hit my, freshman year of high school, I actually moved in with my dad for a whole summer. And then when school started, I went back to my mom's just because, again, my dad didn't live in the same school district as us. He lived in a city over. So
how did your mom feel about you living with your dad during that summer?
I think it was really hard for her. And at the time we were, struggling a little bit. And I kind of was like, oh, I want to go live with my dad. And I think she had just heard that one too many times. So she said, if you really want to move in with your dad for the summer, like, that's fine. That's what you want to do. But I think it hurt her. And I think it was really hard for her to get used to it. But I think in the end, it was good because I got to spend that time with my dad. And it made my relationship better with my mom because I got to like miss her more.
Right. I do want to go back to your dad taking y'all to Disney. He took 6 kids to Disney every year.
Yep.
So is your dad like a millionaire? Because I know that's not cheap.
No, actually, it's funny you say that because he was telling me, because we were planning to take our kids, which we were supposed to go next week, but now we're not going because of COVID. But he was telling me the last time he took us to Disney World, the 6 of us, he said it cost $12,000 by the end of the trip.
I can see that. Easy.
Yeah. That was the last year we went. And I think my youngest brother was, I think the last year we went, he was in 6th grade. So, yeah.
So how many years ago was that?
Probably 15 years ago.
So now you're looking at least $25,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is insane.
I'm just trying to think the last time that we went with our kids, I think we were about like $8,000 in by the end of the trip.
Holy moly.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah, that must be why our parents only took us once. And the only thing I know about that, I was young. I don't remember anything about it except for what I've heard. And my dad said that he took my sister to ride on those little flying elephants.
Uh-huh.
And he asked me if I wanted to go, and I said no. And he said after they stood in line, 2 hours or whatever it was, that as soon as they got off the ride, I said, okay, Daddy, I'm ready to go now. And he's like, I had to stand back in that line.
Oh, wow.
Because, he wasn't going to tell me no.
Right. Of course not.
Actually, now that I think about it, I think we went when I was 13, but I don't think we went to the Disney part. I think we went to like Epcot or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Because I do remember going to Florida, but I don't remember going to Disney.
Yeah. We try to hit like all the parks, but it's intense.
Yeah, my husband, he used to take his kids every year.
Yeah.
And my sister-in-law, they go every year.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
We were doing it every year. And then we were going to go last year, but I got pregnant with our youngest. And then, so we told the girls that we'd take them this year, but now because of COVID, we're not. So we're going to try and go next year. So this is like our longest gap of not going.
So do you just like crowds and screaming kids?
I just love Disney. I still love Disney movies.
Oh my gosh, you're my sister-in-law.
I love Disney. I love Disney everything. And I mean, we have 4 girls. Everything is princess everything.
There is a Disney monthly box you can sign up for.
What is that?
It's like a subscription thing that once a month you get a box of whatever from Disney.
Oh.
I probably should not have told you that.
Probably not.
Yeah, my sister-in-law signed up for it.
I'm going to have to look into that.
But she likes Minnie and Mickey, so yeah. I'm sure that there's different boxes you can sign up for.
Yeah, I mean, my sister-in-law is an even bigger Disney person than I am, and she has like an annual pass and goes as much as she possibly can.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and so my brother now by default goes all the time too. And she's like Disney everything. She actually makes those ears, and she makes all these different like themed ears. Like she made the kids like these like woodland fairy themed ears one year. They were so cool.
Wow.
Yeah, she's very creative.
So I take it you live close to Disney?
No, I'm in New York.
Okay, you don't sound like you're from New York.
Yes, I am. I'm from it's the Hudson Valley. I'm about an hour north of New York City.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I would have never guessed that.
Yep.
Can you kick into a New York accent?
I don't know. I didn't realize I didn't have. But then again, I'm not from the city, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, maybe. So you have to travel a long way to go to Disney.
Yeah. We used to drive because it was so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So we would pack the kids in the car and drive a day straight to get down there. And then the last couple of times we've gone, we flew just because it's a lot to drive with all the kids.
Yeah, but I just can't imagine flying with all the kids either.
Yeah, usually I've gotten very lucky. So usually my mom will come with us, or like my brother and his wife, or my dad and my stepmom. My husband's parents went with us one year. So we usually have a little bit of extra help.
Well, you would have to have help.
Yeah, especially keeping tabs on everybody. It's just, we need an extra pair of hands. It's an all hands on deck experience.
So does your sister-in-law live in New York too?
Yes. Well, Connecticut, but close. Yeah.
And she still has an annual pass to Disney?
Mm-hmm.
Something must have happened to me as a child because I've never really gotten into Disney that much.
Really?
Maybe my mom didn't let me watch Disney stuff because she probably thought it was of the devil. I'm going to have to ask my dad about that.
Yeah.
He'll probably say, we didn't let you watch that crap because we didn't want to hear you say, I want to go to Disney.
We didn't want to spend $5,000 on a vacation.
Yeah. So when you hear the term Disney dad, it doesn't mean the same thing to you as it does the rest of us, right?
No.
You're like, oh, Disney.
Yeah. I love it. We go, yeah, we do like to go every year. But I'm bummed because we were supposed to go next week. So
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a bummer, but what are you going to do?
Well, it's open, isn't it?
Yeah, but because of our governor, you have to quarantine if you go to certain states, and I can't take that much time off work. So,
oh, man.
Yeah. So that's a bummer. And I work for a hospital, so they're even stricter. So,
oh, yeah. Yeah, that does make a big difference.
Yeah. So no Disney, maybe next year.
Maybe next year.
We'll hope for it.
So now that we've talked about Disney,
Yeah.
What is your relationship like with the bio mom?
We don't have the best relationship with her. It wasn't so bad in the beginning. And then my stepdaughter and I started to get really, really close. And I think her mom kind of felt a little threatened by that. My stepdaughter would want to call us and talk to us when she was with her mom a lot. And she got to the point where she was kind of like, no, you're with me. You can talk to them when you're with them. And somehow it kind of twisted. And I think my stepdaughter kind of realized that her mom wasn't our biggest fans. And I think that kind of changed the relationship a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a little hard.
But with you being a mom, you can kind of understand that, right?
Yeah. I mean, part of me struggles because I love my daughter's stepmom. I mean, I think she's wonderful. And I appreciate everything that, she does for my daughter. And I like that my daughter feels close to her because I feel like that she's lucky to have that. And I guess because I have a stepmom that, I kind of like see that. But I do understand where she's coming from. And I think it's hard too, because I think she doesn't feel settled in her life. And I think that, with me and my husband and having more kids and stuff, and her mom doesn't have that. So I think that kind of can be part of it too.
I was going to ask you if the bio mom was in another relationship or not.
She is. She's been in a relationship with a guy for off and on for about 4 years now. They've been together, but I think it's a little bit rocky.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that also kind of plays into some of it as well. And my stepdaughter is really not a big fan of her boyfriend. So I think that part's a little hard too.
I wonder why. Is it because he tries to parent her?
No, actually he doesn't. And he really doesn't. It's kind of odd actually from what my stepdaughter has described to us, because he doesn't really talk to her. He doesn't really put a lot of effort into the relationship with her.
Mm-hmm.
Which you would think, when, after 4 years of being with her mom, that they would have a better relationship. But she says that he really doesn't talk to her much, that they don't do a lot together. So unless her mom kind of like forces like an outing or something like that, like they don't really deal with each other too much.
Does he have kids of his own?
No.
That might be why.
Yeah, I don't think he's really like a big kid person, just from the vibe that I've gotten. I don't know how accurate that is, but
yeah, he may not know how to act around her.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah. So what do you think your biggest struggle is in the blend?
I think it's really hard to tailor our parenting to each child and making sure that they all feel secure and, blended basically, because it's so strange for me. I have to parent my stepdaughter differently than I parent my other kids. And same for my husband. He has to parent differently my daughter than he does his other kids. So it's really a struggle kind of tailoring our parenting to each child, especially because each child responds differently to different things and in different ways. And to really keep everybody happy and keep ourselves sane while doing all that.
Can you explain to our listeners how you have to parent his daughter differently?
Yeah. So I I don't discipline my stepdaughter. If she's ever disrespectful or something like that, I'll say, you can't speak to me like that. We'll say stuff. I will correct her, but I won't discipline her. Like, I won't take something away. I won't tell her to go to her room. I defer to my husband on that. Like, I'll have a talk with him and just be like, this is what happened. Like, you need to handle it how you see fit. Whereas with my biological kids, if you did something wrong, well, hey, give me your iPod. You just lost it. Go to your room. I mean, I feel more comfortable doing that than I do with my stepdaughter. So that's not really something I would do with her. And also, I would say, she is older too. So I would say the way that I speak to her is a little bit different than I would speak to the younger girls.
So have you always been that way with her and the discipline part?
No. When she was younger, I used to watch her because when I wasn't working, I was home with her. So she would get off the bus at our house and I would have her all day until her mom picked her up from work. And at that point, probably I would say until she was 10 even, I was more hands-on with the disciplining and stuff like that. And I think that we started to butt heads around that time period. And that's kind of when we actually sought counseling, like a marriage counselor type family counselor. We were trying to figure out a better way because, my husband would get frustrated with me because he'd be like, oh, you're hard on her. Or, I'd get frustrated with him that he was hard on my daughter because it's so different. And then she really said, she said the best thing that, you can do to help your relationship with your husband and with his daughter is really kind of try and take yourself out of the equation as much as possible, still trying, you still need to make sure that they respect you and, have authority over them. But at the same time, you need to kind of play more of a friend role in terms of discipline because it just got to the point where it was so hard for us. And I didn't want her to resent me. Mm-hmm. And so I really just kind of took myself out of that. And I would say around the time she was 10 and our relationship is a lot better.
It probably changed almost instantly, didn't it?
Pretty much. Yeah.
We see that a lot because it sounds like your marriage counselor was basically telling you to nacho.
Basically.
Yeah. Misconception is that it's just ignore the kids. No, that's not it.
No. Yeah.
No, granted, if your situation is as bad as mine was, there may be a time where you have to disengage fully to just be able to heal. I
would say that right around that time period, it's pretty much that's kind of what happened. And it got to the point where my stepdaughter, she would scream at me and I didn't even know what to do with myself. There were times I locked myself in our bathroom because I couldn't handle it anymore. And that's kind of what drove us to the counseling. And because I had gotten to the point where I couldn't even be around her in terms of doing fun stuff with her. It was just, she had reached a point where she just wanted nothing to do with me. And that was the only way I knew was just disengage. Mm-hmm. And then when we went to the counseling and she was like, well, I think she's like, I'm not telling you, not to talk to her or, she said, I think you really, in order to salvage this, you need to take on friend role versus a parenting role. She goes, that doesn't mean she can walk all over you and talk to whoever she wants. And she goes, it's not the same thing, but you need to get yourself to a point where she doesn't look at you like you're trying to take her mom's place, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of the cool aunt role.
Yeah.
And it's easier, I think, for the kids to bond with you when you are more of the cool aunt because they don't feel threatened by you trying to parent them.
Right.
Was it hard for you to stop parenting her?
Very, 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 very hard. I still struggle with it all the time. I catch myself all the time because I don't really approve of sometimes of the way that she speaks to my husband. Mm-hmm. And some of the things that she says or does or wears or are not ways that I approve of. She came in the one day with a belly shirt to come down to go to school. And I was just like, nope. And I didn't, it's like, what do I do at that point? Because I'm trying not to, to engage with this or discipline or anything. And it's really a struggle because and she's a teenager and, I don't know, it's hard. It really is. I have to say, in some ways I'm a little bit of a control freak and I'm trying to own that. So I especially do struggle with that because there's so many times where I want to jump in, especially sometimes when she snaps at my husband and stuff. And I want to be like, don't you dare talk to your father like that, but I have to try and remember, like, that's not my role. That's not that type of role really isn't good for me or our relationship. So I really have to try and stay out of it.
Or even your relationship with your husband, because like you said, at one point he was like, he felt like you were hard on her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that everybody has different parenting styles. And I think in some ways I'm really strict about some things, whereas my husband's really strict about other things. I'm very strict on my girls in kind of the way they dress. And maybe I'm like too old fashioned. I don't know. Whereas my husband's like, it's not worth the battle. And like, though, in those like ways, like it, we kind of struggle, and it's hard. It really is.
I wonder if he's going to be like that with your daughters though.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I know with my daughter who's 10, I mean, not that she's not really tried to get away with much yet, but I feel like he's almost on the same page with me as with her. But in terms of his daughter, I'm not really sure why it's different, but
guilty parent syndrome.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I really do.
Because you watch your daughters, it's going to be completely different.
Yeah.
He's going to say, you ain't going to school showing your belly.
Yep.
You go get a shirt that goes to your knees.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yep. But I think he doesn't want to pick the argument with her when she's here, because he has such little time with her now, especially that he doesn't want to make it a fight, an argument. He doesn't want her to think remember that from the weekend. He wants her to have fun and be happy and be here and spend time with him.
Which makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It really does. I mean, it definitely does. It's just when it's something like clothing and whatever, but sometimes like the respect thing for me is really hard, because she has younger sisters that hear her, that are listening to what she says and how she says it. And if she's getting away with certain things, then they turn around and try and say the same thing, and it's not going to fly. So it's a struggle for sure.
Well, that was one thing I was going to mention too, is the next thing you know, your daughter is going to say, well, so-and-so, whatever stepdaughter's name is, gets to wear belly shirts to school. Why can't I?
Right.
And your response is simple, because I'm your mother.
Yep.
But the whole talking back, do you find at times that you find it disrespectful, but your husband doesn't necessarily look at it the same way?
Yes, I'd say that happens quite a bit. Yeah.
Because David and I talk about this a lot. His kids would say something to him, and I would think, why are you letting them talk to you that way?
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't find it disrespectful. We have the issue now with my son. He thinks, why do you let him talk to you? And I'm like, I didn't see nothing wrong with it. And it's funny because a stepmom, for instance, may see the stepchild telling dad, hey, get me a fork, as being rude and disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
She looks at it as he needs to get up and get it himself, or he needs to say, Dad, can you please hand me a fork? Well, when it's your own kid and they say, hey, hand me a fork, you don't think anything about it.
Right.
It's like we have higher standards for the stepkids that we expect them to meet.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that. I mean, there's times where he tells her to do something and she'll, like, in my opinion, like when she's like, either one doesn't respond because she's watching TV or something, that drives me nuts, or she'll be like, in a minute. And in my mind, I'm like, no, like somebody told you to do something, get up and go do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, well, whatever. It's when she gets around to it. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm like, if that were the other kids, I wouldn't be flying right now.
Yeah, and I know with my son, I'll tell him to do something and he'll go, when I get through with this or something. And I think, and I even tell him sometimes, I'm like, I know good and darn well you do not tell your daddy that.
Right, exactly.
Because his daddy wouldn't tolerate it.
Right.
And with me telling him 30 minutes later to do it again because he's still not done it.
Right. So yeah, those kind of things are very, very common.
Yeah. And we just have to remember that just because your husband has guilty parent syndrome, it doesn't make him a bad dad. No, I mean, he really is he's a wonderful dad. And I think, and that's across the board. That's, to my stepdaughter, to my daughter, to our girls. I mean, he's a really great dad. He's very hands-on. I feel very, very lucky because I know there's so many men that are just kind of like, oh, that's my wife's job, or that, he's not like that at all. He's always in the fray, right in the middle. But, and I feel bad because part of me feels like maybe the relationship between him and his daughter would even be better if it weren't for mine and my stepdaughter's past relationship.
I mean, granted, now we're doing so much better, but I feel guilty sometimes because I wonder if like the stress that was between me and her caused kind of a rift between them. And that's really a struggle to feel that way.
We're not going to sugarcoat it. It may have.
Right.
But one thing that we learn in life, and definitely that we learn in the blend, is you can't go back and change the past.
Nope.
What you can do is make the best out of the present. And it sounds like you have a good relationship with her now.
Yeah, much better.
And she's not going to remember those bad things as much as you are.
Yeah.
She's 13. She's going to remember more about the boyfriends that are coming up than she's going to remember about the stepmom making her mad when she was 9.
Right.
Whereas you are going to guilt yourself till your dying days about something you said to her when she was 8 years old.
Yeah.
Don't do that. I'm being a hypocrite when I say that, but my son brings up that, I let his friend pick out which cake we were going to cut for his birthday when he was 5. Girl, for 10 years, I've heard that. Now it's turned into let his friend blow out the candles. So the next thing you know, it's going to be that I let the friend open the presents. But see, my son likes to push my buttons. He learned that from his stepdaddy. But they will make you feel like crap. And you can't let them do that. But we have a tendency to make ourselves feel like crap anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
So when you start having those feelings or those memories of the bad times that you had with her, stop. Make yourself stop. Replace that memory with something good. A good time y'all had. A time that you had her laughing so hard her stomach hurt.
Yeah. Like you said, it's so much easier to remember, the struggles.
It is. But think about it. It's because that's what hurts you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also what keeps you from being happy.
Yeah.
Because your mind's telling you, remember when you did this, because it's a self-protection mechanism that don't do it again, but it's also keeping you from being happy in the moment because you're worrying about the past.
Mm-hmm.
You can change those bad memories and replace them with good ones.
Mm-hmm.
So don't let you thinking about things that happened in the past with your stepdaughter concern you now.
Mm-hmm.
Because it does no good.
Right.
And if it's doing anything, it's preventing you from having those good moments now because you're worrying about the bad.
Yeah.
So don't be stuck in the past, girl.
I definitely need to be more of a live in the moment person.
Yes. Well, I think that, again, that's part of the control thing. We like to have control.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look back in the past and realize there were moments that we didn't handle as well as we thought we should, it's the fact we didn't have control.
Right.
So we're still hanging on to it going, how can I fix that? Well, you can't. But what you can do is learn to control how you let those things affect you.
Yeah.
Letting go of quote, quote, control is freeing when you realize you didn't have control over half the crap you were trying to control in the first place.
Yeah, I've always struggled with relinquishing control, whether it's in all aspects, but I would say especially when it comes to parenting the kids and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, me too, girl. Everybody says, people that nacho are just the ones that are lazy and they don't want to try it. You try to keep your mouth shut. It is hard.
Oh yeah.
Nachoing's harder than it is being the evil stepmom.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
I was going to say I think, but I know that stepmoms that have type A personalities struggle so much in the blend.
Oh, yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah, because we need to tell you what you need to do.
Right.
We need you to understand what you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
And we need you to tell us we are right.
Yep.
Well, Holly, what advice would you give someone that is just now getting into a blended relationship with somebody that has kids?
I would say if you're like me and you need to have control, that you need to try and learn that you're not always going to have control and that you cannot control somebody else's behavior, only the way you respond to it. Mm-hmm. And that's probably been a huge thing for me is learning how to respond and that you
want to respond, not react.
Right. And you need to learn that even though you are a step parent, you are not the parent. And I think I really do think Nacho sometimes is the way to go. And I think to make everybody happy, including yourself, you can't take on the role of a parent. You are not the parent. And although you are a step parent, you are not the child's parent. And it just makes it a lot easier for everybody if you know that from day one.
Right.
You're never going to be able to control them. The only person you can control is yourself.
Exactly. Let me ask you this before we end things. Mm-hmm. Does your husband parent your daughter?
Yes and no. I would say he does, but if she is ever disrespectful or kind of, he'll defer to me. Mm-hmm. So he will tell her what to do and stuff like that. And he'll give her chores and he'll tell her, you can't speak to me that way. He doesn't let her get away with whatever, but he won't come down on discipline or anything like that. He doesn't really tell her to go to her room or anything like that. That really goes to me. And I would usually step in at that point.
And that's great.
Yeah. I think he does a good job of mixing the two. He is home with her more than I am. So I think that part's a little challenging because sometimes he kind of needs to discipline kind of in the moment, not necessarily discipline, but correct, I would say. Mm-hmm. But he does a really good job of balancing the two. And it's actually kind of impressive. And I've never really understood how he knew kind of when to give more and when to pull back.
Right.
But he does a good job of that.
That's good. Well, Holly, thank you so much for being a guest on our podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm so sorry you can't go to Disney next week.
Yeah, that's a bummer, but we'll get to go soon.
Yes, you can go and spend all that money, girl. Your kids don't need college. Take them to Disney.
Right?
Well, thank you again and keep us posted.
I will. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks. Thanks for listening to today's episode. Hope you enjoyed it and got some value out of it. So join us next week when we have another amazing episode from the Nacho Kids Vault.
And don't forget to leave us a review.
Oh, yeah, do that because we love those things. We need to start reading more. Next time, we're going to read another one.
He says that every time.
I know. I always forget when we're recording that I need to read some of them. Anyway, for Lori and myself, remember, life is good
when you nacho.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Nacho Kids Podcast. Find us online at nachokids.com. Until next time, remember, life is good when you nacho.